again, it was another one that I knew I was going to be able to stir that Minnesota Wild pot.
Oh, yeah.
I went with coaches, and I excluded Dean Evason for a reason, because I wanted past coaches that are not currently with the Minnesota Wild. The coaches I named: Mike Yeo, Bruce Boudreau, and Mr. Jacques Lemaire. I knew it was going to be tough because I struggled with it.
It is tough, yeah.
And I think I kind of saw the division exactly where I pictured it between Jacques and Bruce.
Yeah.
They're two very different coaches, but likable and lovable in their own way. So Alexis,
very different coaches, but yes.
And you know what? I'll toss a coin into Mike Yeo's bank. I liked him. I thought he, I don't dislike. His family still resides here in Minnesota. His kid went to Hill Murray. I mean, I don't mind Yosi. He's all right. But I know you have feelings, Alexis. Why don't you kick it off? Who was your selection in this week's poll?
Well, it is a tough question, and coaches, I think, can be pretty tough to judge in general. Obviously, the Wild have never won a Stanley Cup, so you can't really put that kind of pedigree into consideration because all of the coaches are kind of on the same footing in that aspect. It's tough because Jacques Lemaire has coached the most amount of games for the Minnesota Wild, almost double what Bruce Boudreau coached, who was the second most games for the Minnesota Wild. It was Mike Yeo. So almost double that. And statistically speaking, it was Jacques Lemaire who had Mike Yeo who had the most wins in the playoffs, which is hard for me to even say because I didn't really like Mike Yeo as the head coach for the Minnesota Wild. Didn't like the way he coached, and I just didn't feel like it was a good fit. But it is tough to look at. If you look at just win percentage for the regular season, Bruce Boudreau is the one who has the highest win percentage. So keep in mind, when Jacques Lemaire coached, he is a defensive-minded coach. So the Wild were very defensive-minded. I would also argue, though, that Jacques Lemaire has had the chance to coach the only true superstar the Minnesota Wild ever saw, which was Marian Gaborik. So I think that's something to take into consideration too, that the rest of these coaches, I think you could argue Kevin Fiala was a budding superstar with Bruce Boudreau. Obviously now Evason has taken over, and I think Fiala's still coming into his skin. So we'll see what happens there. But I would say that the best coach the Minnesota Wild had, I'm going to have to go with Jacques Lemaire. He was also the only coach to win the Jack Adams Award. He won that in 2002, 2003, which was when the Wild had that long Stanley Cup playoff run where they made it to the conference finals. And I just think he had the most time with the team, and I think he was a well-respected guy. Bruce is a very close second for me, though, just because I love Bruce's personality. He was so much fun to be around. Just had the best quotes and wasn't even just feeding you BS. Like he just spoke what he spoke, and they were always great quotes, funny or otherwise. And I think he did a lot of good with the team, and the team went through some tough phases with Bruce as their coach. Not because of Bruce, but he had a lot to deal with when he was with the team. And I thought he handled a lot of it really well. And I thought his firing was a little premature in my opinion. So I would say Jacques was the best they saw. Bruce was a very close second.
I have nothing to add. No, I'm just kidding. That's nothing it. You said it. No, I select Mike Yeo, and that's no, I'm just kidding, guys.
I was literally ready to quit.
I kid. I don't think he was as terrible. I don't hate him as much as maybe the state of hockey does. A coach that I thought was less impressive.
St. Louis, and that he did so well there that everyone was so mad. Yeah.
I mean, I would put him above Todd Richards and Torch, maybe. Like
they tweeted, they were like, put some respect on Todd Richards' name.
Yeah,
I'm like, well, why? Where is it? We'll put it there if it's there. It's not there. So go find it for me.
He got a Stanley Cup as an assistant. He's not the head coach in town. Again, no disrespect to a Minnesota native.
But
and
we're
Todd
also
Richards,
talking about their time with the Wild. Like, I don't, it doesn't matter what they did outside of that. So
yeah. But I too went with Jacques. It's hard to go against such a legend in every aspect of coaching too. I mean, even with outside of the Minnesota Wild, you can't say Jacques Lemaire is not a successful coach. Look what he did with the New Jersey Devils and all of that. And he was, I mean, I know I obviously wasn't working in this career at the time that Jacques was coaching the team, but I heard he was just as great of an after quote as Bruce could be. Maybe not as colorful, but certainly he still evoked a lot of humor out of himself in a very different manner than Bruce might. So I think there's that to be considered too in my decision. I like a guy that you can get along with. That's where it made it tough for me, because I had built kind of a relationship with Bruce. We got to see him for the time that he was here, and he started when I started, and I respect what he tried to do, and I think he tried so freaking hard with this Minnesota Wild team that just didn't respond to him necessarily. But players respond to Jacques because there's something that comes with the respect that a player has. And I think Jacques just commanded that from everybody. And not to say Bruce didn't try, I just think sometimes it was a little bit more difficult for him. So Jacques' my guy. I think most of you agreed. So appreciate everybody. Again, we'll have these every week, so be sure to check them out, take part in it. If you have any ideas for an up for debate topic, we would love to hear that. So
what do you want to argue about?